Welcome everybody to Nerd Squad. It's been a little while since you've heard from us. We apologize for that. It's just holidays and me and Trek was sick last month. So kick back, relax, and we'll be talking about the beginnings of Fox Kids. We've been hyping this up for over a month now. You're finally getting the first part of it tonight. Joining me tonight is the Trekopedia. How are you tonight, Trek?
Good, man. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm good. Just taking it easy. It's a Saturday night. You know how that is.
Yeah.
All
Oh,
right.
yeah.
So, yes, we'll be talking about Fox Kids, but first we gotta get to the history of Fox Kids. Basically, Fox Kids was their history was intertwined with the Disney Afternoon. Trek, would you want to explain to the folks what that was?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it's been a while since I remember this, that they used to air the Disney Afternoon on what will become Fox Kids. It was premiered on syndication on their own owned and operated stations, just like as it was on Fox affiliates and mini markets, and then due to a okay. So it's hard to say due to like a contractual dispute that they kind of separated, I believe. And it was just that Disney purchased, if I read this right, Disney purchased KHJ in Los Angeles and wanted it to be shown on DuckTales, take it away from the Fox station. So that kind of pulled all of their stuff. They pulled all the DuckTales and the Disney afternoon shows off of what will become Fox Kids. So it wasn't Fox Kids yet, but this was like a year or two before Fox Kids really started. But yeah, it's just a contractual obligation dispute. Pretty much just began one of the best lineups ever.
Okay. Following that, Fox Kids was launched in September 8th, 1990, but it wasn't known as Fox Kids at the time. It was known as the Fox Children's Network, and it was a joint venture between the Fox Broadcasting Company and its affiliates. Its programming aired for 30 minutes per day on Monday through Fridays and for 3 hours on Saturday mornings. Do you remember it when it was called the Fox Children's Network, Trek?
No, I don't remember most of that. I remember it, but I don't remember too much when it was Fox Children's Network. I remember the earliest I can remember was when they had Peter Pan and the Pirates on there, and even then it was still Fox Kids. So they were. It kind of reminds me of like Kids WB started. They started with pretty much like half an hour or an hour on weekdays and 3 hours on Saturday mornings. So more proof everyone has to start somewhere and start small and then ramp it up.
Right. And this was the programming on the Fox Children's Network. If anybody's curious, they had Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, Bobby's World, Fox's Funhouse, as Trek said, Peter Pan and the Pirates, Pigs, Bird Pigs, Tom and Jerry Kids, and Zazu U. And they also aired Swamp Thing, but that only lasted a year. Do you remember any of those, Trek?
I remember Peter Pan and the Pirates most well. That really was the first thing I can remember. Watch Out Fox Kids. I know it's a good show, but I don't. Let me see how long did this last. It didn't seem like it lasted too long, but maybe it was just on longer and I just didn't remember it too well. But I do remember it being on there. And then Tom and Jerry Kids, I can remember a little bit because they always bring that back once every blue moon. Never watched Fox's Funhouse. I don't. What was the pig one that you mentioned?
Pigs, Bird Pigs.
Yeah, I never saw that one. I don't even remember them airing it. Yeah, Pigs Were Pigs. I don't remember that. Um, Bobby's World, I think, is probably the most famous one because that's where Howie Mandel came up with the Bobby's voice, because he voiced all the men on that show, I believe. And then for Bobby, he kind of talk like this. So, and he learned that because he was at a kid's birthday party when he was a kid. He started choking on a piece of cake or something like that, and he could start talking like that. And then he said, "Wouldn't it be cool if I could do that voluntarily?" And it actually worked for him after a while. So, but I remember that Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. I remember very well. It was goofy. It was fun. I hadn't seen the movie, but I liked it. And I liked that John Aston from the Addams Family was the old scientist in it. He was on the Return of the Killer Tomatoes, I guess it was called. And it wasn't bad. It was, you could tell they were just starting out with that Swamp Thing. Did anyone watch Swamp Thing? Because it didn't seem like it lasted that long.
It only lasted it lasted October 1990, and then they aired it from April to May of 91, and that was it.
Yeah, I guess you could find them on YouTube. I've had people tell me that they remember watching it, but they couldn't pick it up from a lineup of shows if they tried, but they could remember watching bits and pieces of it. But I think it's just, everyone has to start somewhere. When we go on a little bit with the shows, I mean, we'll get to a point where we can really see it mature, but it's just, it wasn't a bad lineup, but half those shows, as you could see, did not really last until into the next season. Pigsburg Pigs didn't last. I think they got canceled pretty fast. Zazu U, it says here, didn't last long. I don't remember what that was. And then,
Well, according to this thing I'm looking at, that only lasted the fall of 1990.
Zazu U, yeah, it's not surprising. I think that they were just trying to throw anything up on the screen they could just to get noticed, because they really were at this time. Disney Afternoon was starting to peter out, so Fox Kids was just trying to take over big time, and it took them a while. Just like with Kids WB, it took them a little while, but once they got going, they steamrolled.
And if anybody's wondering, I wasn't alive when this happened. I wasn't born until '92, so obviously I don't remember any of this shit.
Yeah. Like I said, I remember Fox's Peter Pan and the Pirates because when I lived in Minnesota, we had a Fox station, but they didn't. It didn't seem like that they did it every day. I think that they had contractual obligations. They had to show certain shows. I remember them usually airing like older episodes of the 66 Batman, like the old Star Trek and stuff, and that seemed to take up a lot of it. So I don't really remember it till like the third year or the fourth year. It took them a while.
Oh, right. Um, in '91, the Fox Children's Network became Fox Kids Network. So I think that was wasn't that the official name of it, the Fox Kids Network?
Yeah, that's when it became Fox Kids Network, and then as it went on, it's just called Fox Kids, but it was always the Fox Kids Network. They just shortened it.
Right. And throughout its history, the Fox Kids aired several promos for its programs during commercial breaks. Wouldn't that mean like if you was watching The Simpsons, you'd get like Fox Kids ads or something?
Yep, pretty much. It's. I can remember regular Fox airing it vaguely, but like I said, I lived in Minnesota for most of my life till I moved to where I live now. And that's when we really got to see Fox Kids a lot and Kids WB and stuff. And so it was like counter programming. They're not counter programming, not counter marketing, kind of associated marketing that you could, if you turn on The Simpsons, you could watch Simpsons, and sometime during the show they'd have a Peter Pan and the Pirates promo or something like that, kind of like a commercial. So it was like, it was helping themselves out, which is smart.
Yeah, and from what I've seen so far of the Fox Kids thing, it looked like it didn't that they wasn't that big in the ratings at the time. I think was it Kids WB on at this time? I forgot.
No, no. WB started in '95, so they had a couple more years till Kids WB took over. It was mainly Disney Afternoon and like some and like you would get on ABC stations would have stuff like Transformers and GoBots and other stuff like that. They'd have the ABC after school special, but Fox Kids just started off slow, and I think that it took them a while to get rolling because a lot of stations had to make room for those programs to get on there.
Yeah, because was it the number one show at this time, Bobby's World?
Yeah, that was the show that lasted the longest from what I'm seeing right now.
Yeah, that's
It
the
lasted.
that's the one show I've never seen.
You can find it on YouTube. I think it's on demand and other stuff. That was the one show that stuck around. I'm looking at the thing here. Even in reruns, that lasted until 1999.
Oh
So it
wow,
lasted for
I don't.
eight. You,
Then I don't understand why the fuck I don't remember that show because I watched Kids Fox Kids back you know like in 94, 95, back when they used to air X-Men.
yeah. Well, you gotta remember also during 94, 95 was when I believe Power Rangers started kicking in too.
Yeah,
So that took over a
I
lot.
remember. I used to watch that every fucking day. That was. I know we're getting old. Hey, it's just there's not a well. That wasn't a whole lot of info at the beginning, but anyway, Power
Yeah.
Rangers was my Pokemon back then.
Yeah, it was for me too. I started off slow with it because when I first saw the ads, I'm like, "What in the world is this thing?" And then they started. It was. I mean, everyone at school was talking about it. They had the action figures; those were hot. Um,
Yeah,
I
the
mean, that's
movie,
when it.
and they also had the movie later on.
Yep, '95, same year as Batman Forever. So I can remember that very clearly. Those two were pretty big.
Obviously, but none of them was as big as Pokemon when it came out in '99.
Oh yeah, Pokemon just Power Rangers was always big. It's still around, but Pokemon just took everything to another level. And by that time, the internet was starting to kick in, so you could really they really took advantage of the internet when it came to Pokemon and Kids WB because they didn't have that when they had Power Rangers. They had a little bit of the internet, but they didn't have enough to really make an impact.
Yeah. Let's see. I think we're good to wrap it up here. What do you think, Trent?
Sounds good. I do want to bring up a little bit of a prologue to this. We talked about this earlier tonight that before Fox Kids they did show some cartoon stuff. They showed Cartoon All Stars to the Rescue. That was back in April of 1990, and that's I believe it wouldn't surprise. I can't find any data to prove this, but I do remember it did so well that it wouldn't surprise me if Fox Kids saw that and said, "Hey, we could do this too." And especially since Disney Afternoon got pulled off their network, they figured they could do something like a kids program and just really take advantage because nobody else is really doing it except for Saturday mornings. So Cartoon All Stars to the Rescue really paved the way. No matter, and there are people who crap on that thing sadly, but it's not a bad special. It's pretty fun. I mean, if you go back and look at it, you can definitely see that Fox Kids took notice. That Fox took notice because it was on their network. They just didn't have official Fox Kids yet. It was Fox Network. But I mean, they took advantage of it. I mean, everything started somewhere, and they started off with a bang.
Right, right. Well, with that being said, we're going to end it here. We covered everything about the beginning of it so far. Tune in next week. That's when we'll get into the meat and potatoes of it, and get into the good stuff. But yeah, is there anything you want to say before we get out tonight, Trek?
Just we're gonna. I just want to say this. We will get into a show we really like later on in the spring. But I just want to say it's the anniversary tomorrow of Batman Beyond's premiere, and that's 22 years from now. And so don't think we've forgotten about that, folks. We're gonna get to it. It's just we're making sure we get through Fox Kids first, because if it wasn't for Fox Kids, there would be no Batman the Animated Series. So you give thanks to the ones who gave it to you, and we'll do a big episode for Batman Beyond coming up. I just wanted to bring up the anniversary, but like I said, Fox Kids made it sure that Batman the Animated Series was coming because nobody was so sure if they wanted to do it, and Fox Kids took a chance on them. So, if you can watch some Batman Beyond tomorrow, I know it's on HBO Max now.
And by the way, when this airs, it'll be tomorrow. So technically, it's today.
Yep, I'm so used to being the present day. But yeah, by the time this airs, it will be the anniversary. And like I said, we're gonna do. So if anybody asks why we're holding off on Batman Beyond, it's just we're waiting to get through Fox Kids. And you got to remember, Fox Kids gave Batman the Animated Series a chance because nobody else was taking a chance on it. Kind of like what Kids WB did with Batman Beyond. Hint, hint. So, so we will get to it. We're not ignoring it. It's just we're on in order, which is cool.
Yeah, and with that being said, we will see you guys next week. Have a good night and stay nerdy.